Today we're going to talk about mastering social, and when I think about mastering social, I don't know about you, but maybe this sounds familiar. Your agency tells you, oh, I need you to promote everything that we do and to help us recruit, use your social presences for that. And your clients want you to, pardon the way that I say this, but they want you to be a brand whore for them in social. And, everyone's telling you Mashable and TechCrunch, and everyone is telling you, you have to learn 10 ways to do this in Pinterest and 7 ways to do that in Facebook, and you're going to be measured by social cloud. And there's all this questionable advice coming to you from every direction and telling you why you need to be in social. I'd rather talk about why you should be in social for your own good, why you should be motivated to do it, why you should remix it for you. So let's move forward. By the way, the thing about social and digital is that you can actually usually get the content that's presented. So I'm going to try to make sure that this deck is available on 3% later. And Kat has said she'll try to make that happen. So this is the social pressure cooker that I was talking to you about. And my advice to you is ignore the hype. Instead, what you should do is come as you are. So we all hear that social is all about being authentic, right? So my feeling is that you really should be authentic, even in Facebook, which you think might be personal, that you should really be the creative person that you are, bring your personality, and don't try to be just an agency shill. Really show up as the person that you are. And when you do come as you are to every social platform, a really great thing happens. You find your people. Now, you may not be a Comic-Con, person. You may not love anime, but we all have our things that we're really passionate about and that we care about, and we're all creative, so we should be able to express those things. When you truly do come as you are, what happens is your people will recognize you. Maybe you don't have to dress like this for them to recognize you, but they will recognize you. And in social, that's a beautiful thing. So the reason it's a good thing is if you think about it, when we were kids, we all had this come-as-you-are-ness to us and what I like to call social goodness. When I was in the 5th grade, I had a friend, and we were just starting, I had a playground crush, Christina Stovall. She was so cool. And she shared a book with me, Little Women, and I shared Harriet the Spy with her. And these books, bonding over these books and sharing the things that inspired us, that's how we connected. That is social goodness. That is showing up as the person that you are. So that was then, and this is now. Most of us in this room are creative. So the thing is, when you share, maybe today I share books that I'm reading, occasionally maybe one that I wrote if I ever get it edited. And I share all kinds of things. I share the things that inspire me. And if you share, Kelly shares the things that inspires her back with me, we are connecting on that same level. We're finding our people, and we're creating social goodness, and we're making the world a more creative place. Now, I don't know about you, but as a creative person, I'm all for that. Anything that makes the world a more creative place is a good thing to me. And I would say that if you're making the world a more creative place, you're probably going to attract a lot more people to you. And guess what? If you know how to do this for yourself, you're going to be able to do it for your brands, and that's going to make your clients happy. Works out really well. So we're creative and we're women. And anyone who is in my last panel knows that my feeling is when it comes to digital and it comes to social, we totally got this. We are wired to connect. We are wired to share. We are born knowing how to nurture. Not all of us to the same extent, but I think that we are social animals, all of us. We just have to figure out how to tap into it. We have to learn how to, get all the stuff out of the way that is keeping us from using social in the way that it should be used. So we're natural-born social ninjas, but we have some concerns. Especially women, we worry about privacy and security, right? We don't want to be fake. We don't want to be like that schmoozy social bot spamming our friends with crap, right? And we aren't sure which of these platforms, because there are many, are the right one for us and where the value is. These are all totally valid concerns, and we're going to talk about some of them. So that's the theory part of this. And as I said, this was great today. I really enjoyed it, but I want to get into some specifics, and I don't have time to go into a ton. And like I said, I will have more content that's available in the future if you want to connect with me, friend me, follow me, find me, and so on. So I call these the big four. And that's totally arbitrary, but I just feel like they're the most important social platforms that are out there, and they're easiest to wrap your head around. Facebook, Pinterest, Twitter, and LinkedIn. I'm going to give you some tips, some DIY for each of them that will probably help you use them so that they give you the most value, and so you'll help you really understand what you can do there. So before we dive into particular platforms, I said privacy and security. We're all worried about it, right? We don't want to get hacked. We don't want to share our kids' photos. We want to keep stuff private. So here's the thing. We're all creatives, and when someone Googles you, all kinds of stuff is going to come up. And you want that because you want people to find you. So this is the world that we live in. You got to learn to love your settings, ladies. I'm sorry. It's a pain in the ass. We're none of us tech people, but you have to do it. And yes, they're changing all the time, but you really got to dig in there. And everything that you need to know about these different platforms is available. It's tedious, but I encourage you to really learn how to tweak your settings. And I'm not going to go into it here, but I will tell you that once you have learned how to really manage your settings and control your data, you're going to feel a lot more comfortable being you. You free yourself in a way. You feel more comfortable showing up as the person that you are. You come as you are because you're comfortable, and you find your people. So we'll start with Facebook, and we'll just use this as an example for all of the platforms. We're all creative. There's no reason why we can't be rocking the basics on every single one of these platforms. Invest a little bit of time and effort into anything else that you would be doing that expresses your creativity. You put creativity into whatever you put on today when you came here. Put some creativity into your cover photo. Put some creativity into your Twitter header. Think about what your profile photo looks like. And Christy's going to talk all about your profile and how important it is for it to show your personality, your creativity, and to tell people not just, so I have this dear friend, Eileen, who's not here today, so someone's going to report back, I know. Eileen is super creative writer, but when I look at her bio, it doesn't say where she works. Well, technically it does. It says, I work at a desk. That doesn't tell me, she's a freelance writer. If I'm looking for a freelance writer, I don't know where she's worked. I don't know if she's a writer. And people will be looking for you in every platform. So rock the basics, ladies. It's worth it. So Facebook, we think, is as come as you are as it gets, right? It's super personal. It's for your friends. It's for your family. But how many of you are Facebook friends with people you work with now or you've worked with in the past? Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So what happens if you share something that you did that was really cool, or you just find a piece of content that is really, it's just like the best, and one of your friends who you work with, they share it with someone who they know, so now you're reaching friends of friends. What happens if that person they share your work with, or the piece that you curated with, is like, oh, geez, this is great. Who shared this? What if that's some brilliant creative director that you want to connect with?
It says you're working at a desk.
And it says you're working at a desk. So then they can't find you at all. And Christy's going to go on about this, I promise you. So Facebook isn't just personal. It is, and you should be who you are, but you should realize that it's going beyond just your friends and your family, and that's not a bad thing. So LinkedIn, we think of it as the opposite of Facebook, right? It's where you're all polished and you're putting your best foot forward and you're super packaged. And I would say, I don't want someone who's going to potentially hire me for a freelance or a full-time gig to think that I'm, this person. When I show up, they're going to be like, who the fuck is that? That is not who I thought I was hiring. I want them to know who I am before I walk through the door, because otherwise I don't want to walk through their door. So when you're on LinkedIn, I think you still should bring your personality, and there's a lot of room to play. We don't think that there is, but there actually is. Now, on Facebook, you share more personal stuff, some work stuff. On LinkedIn, you're finding your people, and you're finding people who are interested in finding out what you know. They want to know what your expertise is. So come as the creative person that you are, and feel free to talk shop. This is not just a job board. This is not just a place to park your profile. There's all kinds of opportunities for engagement, and this platform is constantly changing. Ask questions, comment, get involved in groups, show off what you know, because you're building relationships with people here who you might work with in the future. Now, always bear in mind when you're doing that, of course, that you can have some wild-ass opinion here on LinkedIn, and they're going to be like, do I really trust that person? So where are they going to go? They're going to go to your profile, and they're going to immediately see if you're qualified to have this wild-ass opinion. And if you are qualified, they're going to be like, hot damn, I got to get that woman in here. So again, you know, engage there, but make sure that when they go to your profile, and here are two examples. I searched for a digital writer, and this is what I got. I got this person, who I changed his name to protect him. He's got some weird avatar. You know, it's pretty cute, and his title is Digital Chef. What the hell is that? This woman, and I changed her name too because I respect her privacy, you know, digital copywriter and marketing consultant. Look at this photo. I want to hire that woman. You know, she looks like a nice person. So let's talk about Twitter next. And Twitter is one of the most misunderstood yet very simple platforms. Here's a way to think about Twitter. Everyone is there. You can follow your friends, you can follow trends, you can follow everything you care about, and you can get it in real time. It's an all-access pass. You can connect with and see what the hell politicians, celebrities, ordinary people are talking about, breaking news, industry resources, your kids' school closing time. It's all there. You just have to figure out how to parse that information, and that's the trick. So Twitter is a wonderful platform, except that there's all these other ways to parse that stream that you'll just drown in that are even better. So you've got TweetDeck, and you've got Hootsuite, and you have other tools that you can use to help you parse the information, to basically set up streams that are just sit on your desktop, and when you're ready to look at it, they're coming in there real time. It's like your personal passion engine, you know, search engine that you can check out everything that's there. So learn how to use these tools, and it'll make Twitter much more valuable to you and a whole lot more digestible. So the number one question I get about Twitter is, how do I get a lot of followers? And I always say, why should anyone follow you? Why should I listen to anything that you have to say? Again, social is all about building relationships. It's not about a million people being your followers. It's about having quality relationships with the people who are following you, finding a way to be really an important part of the conversation. So this is a great example. Justin Bieber, love this kid, but, you know, 28 million followers. What value is he really giving me except to, you know, sell me more of his stuff? Here's the guy who literally tweeted the picture of the plane landing on the Hudson, and I was just lucky enough to be following him. He was on a ferry boat. He posted this picture. At the time, he only had 150 followers. This news of the plane landing on the Hudson got out so fast in real time because his followers kept posting it as well. So it's not about the number of followers that you have, it's the quality of followers that you have and the quality of the conversation that you have on Twitter. Thank you, Vanna. So last but not least, we're going to talk about Pinterest. Yes, it's fantastic. So Angela here is a Pinterest monster, just so you know. She uses it so well. So Pinterest, to me, is the best canvas for your creativity. You know, at work, you get a brief, and you got to be inside this box, and you got to deliver. Whatever you love in the world, You can create a fantastic knockout mood board on Pinterest, and there's no creative director to tell you, well, but that's not, the planners aren't going to, whatever. Color, homes, kids, dogs, travel, whatever it is. And it's such a beautifully visual medium. This is where you can absolutely let go. You don't have to rein it in whatsoever. This is something that I think really feeds your soul. Am I right? So, if you want to get started on Pinterest, if you're not already a Pinterest monster, my suggestion is pin with abandon. Pin everything. Everything. Put the pin it button on your browser. Use the app. Just collect all this gorgeous stuff. You'll feel better just doing it, right? Just collect it all. And also repin other people's stuff, because you're going to meet people here that you would never meet otherwise. You're not going to meet them in the ad industry. You're not going to meet them at conferences. You're not going to meet them, this is like a completely different community, and you're going to be exposed to new ideas you'd never meet otherwise. So, if you pin with abandon, you also have to organize like a lunatic at a certain point, right? So you want to curate everything, but first just collect all this crap that you love, then curate it. And when I say curate it, I mean make sure that you categorize your boards in a way that makes sense. Give your pins great names. What you want to do is you want to share. Again, remember, we're talking about social goodness. You want to share everything that you have, that you love, that's creative with the world. So you want to share it with them and curate it with them in a way that's intriguing, and also in a way that they can find it, and in a way that search engines can find it. One last thing that a lot of people don't know about Pinterest. In addition to collecting all this stuff, it can be fashion, it can be whatever, you can create an unportfolio on Pinterest. You can create a living resume. You're not bound by any portfolio site that says no more uploads, or we don't like that frame, or whatever it might be. You can actually keep adding the best of your work, and it's a wonderful picture frame, if you will, for it that you won't find anywhere else. So those are the big four. Beyond them, there's a million other platforms. We all know that. My suggestion to you is don't feel like you have to do it all. Pick a platform, the one that feels naturally the right fit for you, if you're not already completely immersed in social. When you get there, come as you are. Bring all of your creative goodness, and you will find your people. Maybe not at Comic-Con, but you will find your people. And what will happen will be complete and social goodness. So I'm going to turn this over to my panelists now. Okay. I'm going to get Colleen. Colleen, should I get you fired up, or?
Whatever. Now.
Christy, would now be a good time for you to talk about giving us a peek behind the curtain?
I want to hear what the ladies say.
Okay.
And then that way I can just clip in real quickly about how to
Okay.
catch my attention.
I'm going to give you
I'm
this.
sure you can hear me, or do I have to hold this?
Well, only for the video.
Oh, the video. Okay. All right. So we're going to kind of jump in, I think, a bit at the end here, because I assumed that you all use social, because if you don't, half of you wouldn't have known that this was happening, right? Right. So we all know about that. I just got some like visual reference stuff, which hopefully will work. Awesome. You can skip that one, and I can talk and drive if you want.
All right. I'll get out of your way.
So pass by that one. So a couple of things. I'm going to go into presentation mode. View. Can you guys see this? Because I put my glasses off. Oh, here it is. Yay. All right. Is that working? Great.
Yeah.
So social. Lots of stuff that you can do. We could all get better or worse. Yep, absolutely. Better if I stand up? Okay. Lots that we can do. For better or worse, we're all sort of there. I think a lot of what happens in social is we get on these trends and we start passing things around. And honestly, sometimes I think that in an effort to not offend anybody, we get really boring. You know, there's sort of a sanitized, standardized version of what a woman in our industry can put on social media. And I don't agree with it. There's a couple of things that I think matter here if you want to go from the slow lane to the fast lane in terms of managing your brand on social. You know, we look at it and it starts out as it's this place where you can find smart things, you can look at articles, you can decide that you want to share them, and it starts to kind of curate your path through the world intellectually. Gives people an idea of what you think, what you like, what you believe in. But I really think that the opportunity here over on the right-hand side is it's this opportunity to shift the perception of your brand. Any of you who are working in social for your clients know that one of the things that it's great for is brand perception, right? So you see your company or yourself as you are your company here. The market sees you here. And social gives you an opportunity to really rapidly close the gap on that by assessing how you think people see you and creating a narrative that changes that to something closer to what you'd like it to be or something that you really care about. And I think that if we miss that opportunity in social and we're just sort of doing what our friends do, you're missing something big because everybody does look, everybody does check, right? Everybody kind of gets an idea of who you are by that. I shouldn't get too personal is another thing that I've heard. And I think that personal is all we've got. You know, everything else is news and noise. It's stuff that's already out there. It's that Mashable article for the 500th time that nobody needs to read again. And I know that's part of what we do as part of the system. We disseminate things. But personal is you, and it's what you've got. And I think you should get very personal because it is a personal channel. People say my real friends don't want to know about my business life. And Nancy Hill was telling me that she's, you know, her friends from where she grew up are like, oh, do I really need to hear about that stuff? I actually think that that means they're not your friends. I think that your friends, if you're putting it out there on social media and you are tooting your own horn and you are saying, this is what I'm doing and this is why I care about it and this is why it's great, or I just got promoted, they are picking that up and they're spreading it everywhere because that is a signal to everyone that it can be done and that you're doing great. So there is a way to self-promote, and I think we all have it in us, particularly as women, to know where that line sits. But I think that you really should do it, that there's nothing wrong with it, and that your real friends really do want to know because it takes up how much of your life? 70%? 80%? I don't know how much we all sleep, how much time we give to our families. I know work runs all the way through it. So you should put it up there. That rolls into, I was just talking about personal promotion. If it's not for personal promotion, what is it for? You are not just another person on Facebook. You are a media professional. This is what you do for a living. That space should be a living evocation of everything that you could do for a client and everything that you believe the space can do. You should be pushing the boundaries of what that space does all the time. There is no other promotion for you but this one. And this one matters a lot, and you've got to control it yourself, which is a good thing. That takes us to stay away from controversy. Bullshit. I really do think that you should stay away from the non-speak, that you should stay away from the memes, that you should stop just happily kind of like liking and smiling and, you know, passing things on. Say things that matter to you. Pick up things that matter a lot to who you are and to your friends, the people that you support, and intelligently find a way to have that conversation. If you are passionate about anything that is the least bit controversial, it's all going to end up here anyway. So be proactive and start working against that. So those are sort of my top level things. We were asked to bring two things to the party today. So my two, as I forget that I'm supposed to be driving for myself. Oh yeah, that was just I've got little quotes through here. I'm intimidated by the fear. No, I know, I saw that. That was so amazing. Could you parallel park this deck for me? So I'm intimidated by the fear of being average. And, you know, I think that that's really something that we should all be intimidated by. And I think that we hear a lot, particularly if you're working with a Facebook rep or the person that's coming in and talking to you about conversations, and that disruption doesn't work on the channel. And I get that. I know that it's not campaigns. I know it's a steady stream of things. But I think that the fear of being average is what needs to drive us all. And I think that when you're in social media, it's what it's all about. Now, speaking of being intimidated by being average, you know, so what intimidates you? What is it that stops you from expressing yourself on this channel or on any of the social channels? And I don't know if she's still here, but, you know, Cindy, I'm sure you all saw this go down. I will even admit myself as someone who is like sometimes fairly out on the edge. I was like, holy shit, Cindy, wow. And, you know, then I watched her over the course of the next few days. And I watched first, I mean, you know, salute her bravery and her honesty, but also I watched her jump into the stream. And she was not doing what you learn in, you know, PR 101, which is just do not address. You know, I worked with a holding company and the policy was we do not speak to blogs because they're not real media. We do not respond to things on social. Not a good idea. So Cindy, of course, put on her wading boots and went straight in. And I loved it because this is all about being who you are. Because if you didn't love her message, you could still love Cindy by the way that she handled these comments. And I should grab my glasses, or I'll cover one eye, which is what I do most of the time since I was a kid. All my TV was watched like that. So, you know, you have everything from, oh my God, take off those earrings, please, or just use another mic. She's right in there. I know, never wearing those earrings again. You know, to when you get up the top, she says, was it? Oh, she wishes she had sex with men in their 20s. And Cindy says, cough. Sorry to disappoint you, but I really do, darling. How do you not love that person? How do you not know everything about that person? So she's going in, she is actively not apologizing, but managing. I don't believe that it's true when people say, oh, you don't own your brand in social media. I think that's the biggest cop-out, and I don't think that we should be telling our clients that either. You definitely own your brand on social media. You own what you say. You own going in and correcting people's misperceptions. You own how much gets out there and when. And you own the ability to manage it when it gets out of hand. And I think that, you know, Cindy's incredibly brave that way. I know, I think she forged a way for a lot of us. And I think that that's, you know, one of the things that scares us. I don't know how many people here would just shit their pants if this happened to them. Right? Just complete grace. I think that the video didn't even count as much as what she did with those thousands of comments. So get out there and be brave. Because I really do think that if you wear your weakness like an armor, it can never be used to hurt you. Which is a quote from the writer of Game of Thrones, which I'm sort of all about right now. It's a little bit nerdy, but you know, I think that it's true. And I don't think that it's because it's our weakness, but it's possibly perceived as our weakness. It is possibly the way that people will come in and make commentary about that picture that you were in with a person, or who you date, or what you do, or what you liked. That belongs to you. So if you own that and you make a rationale for it, nobody can hurt you. So, you know, onto that topic. You know, personal experience. When personal goes public, you don't own the conversation. You own your brand, but you do not own the conversation. I did a very small interview with a very small paper in New York, and it blew up and went everywhere. The interesting thing about it, it started out as anonymous, and then actually Cindy said, you can't do that. You can't be anonymous when you say these kinds of things. You've got to stand up and take ownership of them, which was a terrifying thing in itself. But what I did think was interesting is that it was a very complicated article that said a lot of different things. My biggest fear is that people would think that I hated on women, you know, because I talked about wanting to be inside the boys' club for the first half of my career, and about how, you know, why aren't women more friendly to each other? What happened is it got picked up as a commentary about gender discrimination in the industry, which does matter. It matters a lot. Just as I thought it was over, because they did the interview, all of a sudden it's popping back up. And every time I turn around, it's there again. And you don't own the conversation. You have to just keep rolling with it and keep going and keep sticking to your guns and being careful and doing and saying the right thing. Because when personal goes public, you also don't control the volume. And what happened in this instance is another publication picked it up, was not so kind and was very sensationalistic about it. Well, there's no other way to say it. They were very sensationalistic about it. Just the way that they put it together. And I thought, okay, so, you know, double down number 2. What do I believe in? Have your talking points. Know what it is that you've got to say. Say it repeatedly. You can never say it enough. Say it directly to people. You can actually go in, and when your friends share something into their group that you may not be a part of, you can actually still see those conversations. I actually like trolled right in there and went right in and was like, hey, wait a minute, but you know what? In defense. Or, yeah, well, I think you're wrong. And I think that if you do that graciously, that is what social media really starts to be about. I think that you can only understand how to help a brand in that situation if you know how to help yourself. And as long as you're playing it safe all the time, you will never know how to do that. The third thing to understand is that when personal goes public, it still can't hurt you. And that was really what this was about for me, which is that if I said it, if other people said it, if everybody said it and nobody got fired, who the hell wouldn't say that again? Who wouldn't continue to have that conversation? The upside is the company that picked it up and got very sensationalistic. Actually, I'm just going to take a segue. What's really funny here in this mixing of metaphors and agendas is that this little cycle in particular wasn't even about me being a woman. It was about, was I really a creative director? And was I really in advertising if I was a digital person? And it just went on and on and on, but it was all this nuance that was wrapped around it. You know, by you don't know what people say behind your backs as women, it's what's said everywhere. You know, to which my response was, well, I'm kind of sad about that, and what about blacks and gays? Is that okay too? I mean, is it just, if it's just, you know, between you dudes, is that fine? So I kept going. And what was nice is the publisher of the publication, which was Business Insider, publicly got on and tweeted, hey, see, just noticed you're fighting the good fight in our comments. Our commenters can be jerks. Apologies. What was fascinating is that Business Insider is very much more a male-skewed audience. I followed up with him. I got all the statistics. That was where it was coming from. He openly said, sorry, they're jerks. Are you okay? Do you want me to handle it? I said, no, I got a handle on it. It all sort of started to die down. So you can't be hurt if you're honest. It's not something you've made up. If you really mean it, if it helps other people, and if it's relevant. So that's how bad it can get. You know, and you can still pull back from that and have twice as many friends and just as much support. So there is nothing to be afraid of in social media, really, except those terrible spam bots and spamming your friends and all that stuff. So, you know, I think it's a Maya Angelou quote, and I think it's true, is that people will forget what you said, they'll forget what you did, but they'll never forget how you made them feel. And I just pulled up, it was an inbox on Facebook from a man who said, I just read your article. It evoked all these memories for him of what it was like starting out in the business, and went on to say, thanks, it was an interesting thing to, you know, hear you talk about that, and love reading the story. So for me, that's the thing that I will always remember. That's the thing that he made me feel, which was great. And there were so many of them. Black women, black men, homosexual men, homosexual women. There was just everything. It wasn't even just about women. I don't think that people will dig in about the details on that article. I hope that because the conversation's managed, people just remember you stood up for something. So I think that that's a really important lesson, and thanks, Cindy, for that one. The second thing I wanted to bring to the discussion is bring who you are to your social work. Cross the boundaries into your job through your social in a way that's about not promoting, but experimenting in front of people in real time. Use those platforms to do beautiful things. You know, if you look at Kate Spade, which I think, you know, is kind of the poster child for social media, particularly with women, there's a very interesting thing, an article that was done, and the CMO talks about, they started out with all these really great, complicated ideas. Have people in the stores write things down with a marker. It would get tweeted out for them so that you'd hear what all the Kate Spade women were doing. Didn't take, didn't take, didn't take. In the end, they realized that it was just the day-to-day that people responded to. So when they began thinking about the Kate Spade woman, when they had a personality and they would bring her and her agenda to life, she was checking into MoMA. She was going to this hotel. She was saying she was tired. She was showing her non-diet food on the plane. She was cracking jokes about stuff other people were wearing. Whatever it was very honest and very real, and it has jettisoned them up into one of the top social media brands for women right now. So when you look at that, you know, what does that mean? How many of you are on Path? It almost kind of doesn't matter, right? Because the install base is irrelevant. As long as there's you and another person, that's all that matters. A lot of the research is showing that it's a distinctly female platform. And in fact, when you talk to the creators of Path, when they started it, although this video has a man in it, this is a guy, he's on the road, his family's at home, he's using Path to share all his little moments. You know, the little nav on Path, I call it the new Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? It's like what I see, who I'm with, where I am, what media I like, what I think. And then the last one is very Path specific, and I think very female specific, which is about sleep. And it's not really about the race to who does and doesn't sleep. It's about the fact that when someone wakes up in your home that you really love, what's the first thing you say to them? how'd you sleep last night? So it brings it into this place. I found I was playing with it. I really loved it. I was doing all kinds of things. Had a client that was looking for a new platform that they wanted to do something interesting with, a media first, and just sort of started looking at applying the way that I used it in my own life. Because I have like 20 odd friends in Path, because we really do like psychic social media screaming in there, bitching about clients, bitching about everything. I asked them to please just like log out of me for the night, invited the client in and the client's coworker, and just started over the next 24 hours massaging and managing this platform with their assets in a way that made it really come to life for them. So in real time, having done it for myself, realizing what it could do, knowing the texture of that platform, I just started telling a brand story across it. Because it may be smaller networks, but when somebody touches something you do on Path, it has the same value as if half of the people on Facebook interacted with something that you posted, because the engagement is so high. So looked at what would I care about, the people, the intimate things they thought about where they were, you could check in, et cetera, et cetera. Got Tim Lincecum, started breaking him down, pretending that we were him, pushing this stuff through. And by, I think, about 36 hours in, we got the email that was like, okay. You could do it. We get it. And I think that that's where you can start to blend over. Use your platforms to tell these little stories. Use your Pinterest to narrate things that matter to you. Tell different stories, evoke emotions. Play around on Facebook and say, this is a test. Does this bug you? What do you think? And everyone will sort of start responding to that. And I think that's where you start bridging the gap between your brand, your personal control of that brand, what that means to what you do for a living, how you convert that into a platform to speak to clients, therefore getting more work, therefore getting us more of us in the business, and higher up the ladder. And really, those were my two things. Can't please yourself, or you can't please everyone, so you better try and please yourself. Rick Nelson, which may date me a little bit.
Christy Cordes the favor of going after Colleen, so that's my big contribution. No, you did a great job. So the most powerful thing I can tell you about social media is that as a startup entrepreneur with no one who's agreed to use my big idea about the no glass ceiling brand so far, I am here because of social media. So how does that happen? I tweeted a lot. I was on Facebook and had a website and all those things. And Kat and I ended up following some of the same hashtags, reached out, ended up having a phone conversation, talked to one another and bonded. And I'm from Ohio. So sitting in Columbus, Ohio, this amazing woman with the same interest as me reached out to me based on tweets that we had in common. So it can be that powerful of a media of reaching out and finding people if you let it. I'm going to keep my talk really quick. A couple of the points, I have two big points, but the one thing I wanted to say about social media that's probably the most powerful thing is that I get really tired of hearing people talk. I'm always tweeting out, here's what I have to say, here's what I have to say. Well, how often are you going to reach back and talk to people at first, or retweet them, or comment on their tweets? If it is strictly an outgoing conversation and you never respond, you are not going to really engage with folks. Me standing up here for an hour is far less exciting than the Q&A, which is another reason I'm going to keep my talk short. So make sure that when it's not just a conversation of outgoing, you will lose your genuineness, you won't present a good image, you'll appear very narcissistic and self-interested and all the things you don't want to do if you aren't making it a two-way conversation, even sometimes not just responding, but initiating conversations with other people in your stream as well, be it Twitter or Pinterest or anything else. So that's one thing that I learned as I was just following people and observing. I thought, just shut up, I'm tired. Reach out to me once in a while. And if I reach out to someone twice and they don't reach back out to me, I'm done with them. Because there are enough people in the world to follow who are interested in the things to find my tribe, that I don't really need to try to engage with someone who's not interested in engaging with me. So the 2 points, my official points that I had were that, let's see. So my background's in HR. So I can tell you can actually use social media to propel your career forward because we're women. We are the majority of social media users on every platform. And here's the tip. We get along better. We make more friends. We have bigger networks. So when we are on social media, how many of your guy friends have 800 friends like I do, right? They're like, no, I'm not interested, whatever. So, I mean, this is a huge opportunity to propel your career above men, to move it faster by making those networks, maintaining them. And again, if you're on Facebook friends with someone, once in a while, give their stuff a like, make sure you're reaching out. But remember that you'll have to go and seek some of them out because less than 20% of what's in your feed is typically seen by your followers. So be aware of that. And the other point that I wanted to make was that it can add credibility. So you have your own platform that everyone can search and find. Use that to say what you want to say, to make sure that your brand is out there. I thought it was great, and I slipped her a 5. Margaret Johnston this morning said, someone came up to her and said, hey, you don't have a brand out there. You need to create that message, what you're interested in, who you are. It makes your value, especially in the field y'all are in, so much higher, and Christy can speak to that too. But if you aren't out there creating a brand, it really does, and I think Margaret spoke beautifully to it without collaborating with me at all, it really does decrease your value in the marketplace. So make sure that you are engaging, that you are reaching out, that you understand that you can actually use this to move your career forward faster, that it's a competitive advantage over men, and not just that you are a woman, but that your friends are women, and so all of your circles are exponentially larger than men. And then just make sure that you do have a brand out there that you're working on it. One caution, this can start to suck up your life very quickly because we talked about LinkedIn, we talked about Facebook, we talked about Twitter, we talked about Pinterest, talked about Path, and there's a new one every day. Then there's the check-in services. And so make sure that you're keeping up a reasonable dialogue and you're not over Facebooking, and we all have those friends, right? So make sure you're keeping up a reasonable amount of dialogue without it taking away from your job or your life or anything. Remember, you're there to talk about what's important to you. You're not to make social media what is your most important thing. So that's all I have.
Sorry. Now, Christy's going to finally give us that peek behind the curtain.
Okay. Okay. What do you guys want to know? Because I could go on forever about this. Do you want to know how to be friends with a titan in an ad industry, one of the biggest ECDs in the world, on a personal basis? How do you friend him? Do you want to know how to be found by a headhunter? What do you want to know? Yes. Which one? Ooh, okay, all right. Does anybody know who Scott Goodson is? Okay. I got really brave, and I sent Scott Goodson as the owner and founder of Strawberry Frog. It's a great guy. So I got up my courage, and I sent him a Facebook invite. Not even just as a recruiter, but as being in the ad industry. I think he's really awesome, and Cindy Gallup, too. I sent him a note, and I said, your work is gorgeous. I love what you guys are doing at Strawberry Frog. You would so make my week if you accepted my offer. Okay, that was a LinkedIn invite. He wrote back, "Sure, kiddo," and I'm like, "Sweet." I'm CEOs. I don't know. So then I started following him on Twitter, and then he retweeted me. He retweeted something I wrote, and I'm like, oh my God, that's so awesome. I'm a recruiter. He's retweeting a recruiter? Really? Cool. God, that's good for my business. And I got retweeted by the White House, too, like 3 months later, about looking for work, which was really cool. But so then I'm like, okay, I really, you know what? This is the amazing thing. This is what you can do for your careers. So then I send Scott, I sent him an ad, and I add him to my Facebook. And I said, Scott, we're LinkedIn, we're Twitter friends. You just retweeted me. I'd love to be, on your Facebook. And he wrote back, oh, hey, of course, Christy. And now I have conversations with him all the time in my private inbox. I mean, I've never met the man. His birthday was, 2 weeks ago? I don't know. I know you guys there's lots of people here friends with him. And so I went through the internet and I found a picture of a flying frog over water with goggles. They have some new airline account, Emiratis or whatever. And I posted that on his wall. And so anyway, so here is a really amazing executive creative director whom apparently we have nothing in common. I'm a recruiter, and he's running an amazing, huge ad agency in New York that's doing great work, and we're buddies. We're done? Yep. Okay. Well, that's it, guys. Sorry. We have cocktail hour. So, but do you guys see what I'm saying? Because you're like, oh, I don't know that person. It's like, yeah, you can do it, girls. Do it.